The autumn air of St. Louis, Missouri on October 23, 1999 was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a familiar prologue to winter's embrace. For 17-year-old Alex Miller, it was the smell of homecoming, a heady mix of excitement and anticipation. The stadium lights of Kirkwood High School cut through the early evening gloom, casting long shadows across the packed bleachers. The roar of the crowd was a visceral thing, a wave that swelled and receded with every play, a symphony of youthful exuberance. Alex, quarterback of the Kirkwood Pioneers, felt that roar in his bones, a current of pure adrenaline coursing through him. He wasn't just playing, he was living, breathing, a vibrant part of something larger. Alex was everything a small-town hero should be, handsome, athletic, with a quick, easy smile that could disarm anyone and light up a room. He carried himself with quiet confidence. He had dreams of playing college ball, maybe a shot at the pros, but more than that, he dreamed of a life beyond Kirkwood's suburban streets. He talked passionately about engineering, about seeing the world, about a future that felt boundless. His girlfriend, Emily Vance, a vivacious redhead with a laugh that echoed joy, was usually by his side. Tonight she was in the stands, a nervous flutter in her stomach as she watched him, her Alex, a whispered prayer among the cheers. His parents, Sarah and Tom Miller, were regulars at every game, their faces etched with pride and parental anxiety. Tom, a foreman at a local manufacturing plant, had taught Alex to throw a perfect spiral in their backyard. Sarah, a beloved kindergarten teacher, worried constantly, but always arrived with a thermos of hot cocoa and an encouraging word. They lived in a modest split-level house on Bellevue Avenue, its lawn meticulously kept, a testament to their quiet, ordered life. Alex's younger sister, 15-year-old Chloe, often rolled her eyes at their parents doting, but secretly adored her older brother, admiring his effortless charm and the way he always seemed to know how to fix things. The Pioneers clinched the game in the final minutes, a narrow, hard-fought victory that sent the crowd into a frenzy. Alex, drenched in sweat and elation, was hoisted onto teammates' shoulders, the undeniable MVP. The celebration spilled from the stadium, morphing seamlessly into the homecoming dance in the school gym. The air inside was thick with the scent of cheap cologne, hairspray, and youthful anticipation. Disco lights spun across the polished floor, painting fleeting colors on laughing, carefree faces. Alex, still buzzing from the game, danced energetically with Emily, their bodies moving easily to the pulsating beat of a Backstreet Boys song. He greeted friends, accepted congratulations, and lived wholly in that perfect, fleeting moment where the future felt like an open road. Around midnight, as the dance began to wind down, Alex told Emily he was going to walk a few friends to their cars parked a block away, then head straight home. He wasn't feeling great, a sudden headache perhaps, or just the accumulated exhaustion. He gave Emily a quick, tender kiss, promising to call her first thing in the morning. "Don't worry," he said, his smile still bright, though perhaps a little strained. "I'll be fine. Go on, get a ride home with Jenny." Emily watched him disappear into the thinning crowd, a slight, unshakable frown marring her pretty face. He was usually the last to leave. Sarah and Tom, expecting Alex home by 1 a.m., stirred uneasily when the glowing clock on the kitchen microwave blinked 2:30 a.m. Tom made a mental note to ground him, a familiar parental ritual, but one tinged with nascent anxiety. By 3 a.m., the unease had fully morphed into a cold, creeping prickle of alarm. Sarah, her heart beginning to pound, called Emily, who reported Alex had left the dance hours ago. She then frantically called his closest friends, Steve and Mike, who confirmed Alex had walked them to their cars and then headed towards his own, a beat-up '89 Ford Ranger, parked across from the high school. His truck, however, was still there, undisturbed in the dimly lit school parking lot. That was the first, jarring, undeniable sign that something was terribly wrong. By dawn, raw panic had fully set in, tightening its icy grip on the Miller household. Tom, his face drawn and pale, was on the phone with the Kirkwood Police Department. Officer Henderson, a veteran with a weary but kind demeanor, took the initial report. Missing persons cases involving teenagers were often quickly resolved, but Alex leaving his car, not contacting anyone, felt profoundly off. The early hours of the investigation were a blur of questions, frantic phone calls, and agonizing wait. The house on Bellevue Avenue, usually filled with domestic life, became a silent, suffocating tomb of dread. Chloe sat in her room, trying to make sense of the growing, unbearable quiet, her brother's absence a gaping, terrifying hole. Detectives from the Kirkwood PD and later the St. Louis County Police took over. They interviewed everyone: Emily, Steve, Mike, other teammates, coaches, teachers, even the school janitor. They meticulously walked Alex's supposed route, scouring every bush, every ditch, every shadow. The high school parking lot was processed with painstaking detail, but yielded nothing out of the ordinary. No signs of struggle, no discarded items, just mundane remnants of a Friday night. The initial theory was simple: Alex walked away. But why leave his car? Why not tell anyone? The questions gnawed at the investigators. The search expanded, first across Kirkwood, then rapidly across St. Louis County. Volunteers, organized tirelessly by Sarah and Tom, fanned out, plastering bright, missing flyers with Alex's smiling face on every lamppost, every storefront from Webster Groves to Forest Park. Local news channels picked up the story, their headlines blaring, "Teen football star vanishes after homecoming." The entire community rallied, a powerful wave of collective concern washing over the Millers. Meals were delivered, phone lines were set up, a command center established in the church basement. But days bled into weeks, weeks into months, and the leads grew colder, the tips more desperate and less credible, each one a cruel mirage of hope. Investigators chased every rumor, every potential sighting. A hitchhiker fitting Alex's description near Eureka, a young man who looked like him at a Greyhound bus station downtown. Each lead was a fleeting flicker of hope, quickly ignited and swiftly extinguished, leaving behind only ashes of despair. Detective Reynolds, the lead investigator, a man whose career was defined by his relentless pursuit of truth, felt the immense weight of the case pressing down on him. He knew the grim statistics: the longer a missing person was gone, the slimmer the chances of a safe return. Without a body, without a crime scene, without tangible physical evidence, they were operating in a void. It was agonizingly frustrating, a complex, infuriating puzzle with too many crucial pieces missing. The Miller family fractured under the immense, unrelenting strain. Sarah became a ghost of her former self, her vibrant energy replaced by perpetual exhaustion, her eyes hollow from unshed tears and countless sleepless nights. She spent hours by the phone, convinced every ring would be Alex, or at least news of him. Tom, usually the stoic rock, grew distant, his silence a heavy, oppressive cloak. He threw himself into work, finding a brutal, temporary solace in manual labor, anything to escape the unbearable, echoing quiet of their home. Chloe, who had adored her brother, felt forgotten, caught in the undertow of her parents' profound grief. She struggled in school, her grades plummeting, her bright personality overshadowed by pervasive sadness. The once lively house on Bellevue Avenue became a desolate museum of Alex's absence, his room untouched, a heartbreaking shrine to a vanished life. His football helmet still sat on his desk, his cleats by the door, waiting. The first anniversary passed with a solemn candlelight vigil, a somber gathering under a gray, weeping October sky. The crowd was noticeably smaller than the initial searches, the fervent hope replaced by quiet, resigned sorrow. Every year after, the vigil would shrink further, a poignant testament to the world's inevitable march forward, even as the Millers remained frozen in time, perpetually waiting for answers that never came. The case was eventually classified as a cold case, a thick folder gathering dust in a rarely opened filing cabinet, occasionally pulled out for a fresh look, a reevaluation of old notes, perhaps by a new detective. 7 years later, the year is now 2006, the world had irrevocably shifted. Flip phones were common, the internet was woven inextricably into the fabric of daily life. The memory of Alex Miller, while still cherished by those who knew him, had faded inevitably from public consciousness. Kirkwood itself had changed too: new businesses, new families, new high school classes. The Millers, however, remained tragically trapped in their purgatory. Sarah was now frail, her spirit visibly diminished, her body hunched. Tom had aged well beyond his years, his hair fully gray, his shoulders perpetually slumped under an invisible burden. Chloe, now 22, had moved away for college, trying to build a life free from the suffocating grief, but the deep, jagged scar of her brother's disappearance remained, an open wound. On a warm, humid afternoon in late April 2006, a construction crew was clearing a patch of dense, overgrown woodland in Fenton, a suburban municipality southwest of St. Louis, near the confluence of the Merrimack River and Big River. This land was slated for a new housing development, a typical sign of the region's steady expansion. The excavators had been at work for days, tearing up trees, churning the earth. One of the operators, Jesse Thorne, noticed something profoundly unusual as his machine's bucket tore into a shallow, overgrown ravine that had once been a natural drainage ditch. Among the tangled roots and compacted earth, he saw a distinct flash of faded blue fabric, denim. Curiosity piqued, a cold premonition settling in his gut. He carefully lowered his bucket, revealing more. It was a human skeleton, partially exposed, its bones stark and pale against the dark soil. A tattered flannel shirt still clung precariously to the ribcage, and what looked unmistakably like a high school class ring, dulled and encrusted by years of interment, rested chillingly near a skeletal hand. Jesse, a veteran of construction, knew immediately what he had found. He killed the engine, the sudden silence amplified eerily by the distant hum of traffic on a Minus 44. He called his supervisor, who in turn called the scent. Louis County Police. The scene quickly became a hive of activity. Crime scene investigators, forensic anthropologists, and seasoned detectives swarmed the site. The area was cordoned off with bright yellow tape, a stark contrast to the vibrant new growth of spring. Detective Reynolds, now older, his hair thinner and temples grayer, but still carrying the same weary determination, was called. He had moved on from active missing persons cases years ago, but the minutiae of Alex Miller's file were etched permanently into his memory. The class ring was the key, the chilling, undeniable link. Within hours, preliminary analysis confirmed its inscription: Kirkwood High School, 1999, with the initials AM. A full dental record comparison confirmed the identity beyond any doubt. 7 years, 6 months, and 11 agonizing days after Alex Miller vanished, he had been found. The news hit the Miller family like a brutal, physical blow, a fresh, raw wave of grief that somehow felt even more devastating, more final than the initial disappearance. For years they had clung to a sliver of hope, however faint, that he might still be alive. Now that precious hope was brutally extinguished, replaced by the grim, crushing certainty of death. Sarah collapsed, her remaining strength giving way. Tom felt a strange mixture of profound sorrow and a terrible, unwelcome sense of final closure. Chloe, hearing the news in her college dorm, wept uncontrollably, the years of suppressed grief finally erupting. The investigation, now officially a homicide case, roared back to life with renewed, ferocious vigor. The remains, though skeletal, still offered crucial clues. The forensic anthropologist estimated the time of death to be very close to Alex's disappearance. There were no obvious signs of blunt force trauma or gunshot wounds on the bones, suggesting a less overt method of killing. The tattered clothing yielded no clear DNA evidence beyond Alex's own, but the meticulous sifting of the surrounding soil might yet reveal something. The location, a secluded, undeveloped patch of land, strongly suggested the body had been deliberately and painstakingly concealed. It indicated premeditation. Detective Reynolds and his reformed team pulled out the dusty, yellowed binders of Alex Miller's cold case. They revisited every interview transcript, every scribbled tip, every loose end. Technology had advanced significantly since 1999. DNA analysis was far more sophisticated. New forensic techniques could potentially glean crucial information from degraded evidence. They looked again at Alex's friends, his acquaintances, anyone who might have had a motive or a dark, untold secret. The initial interviews, conducted when memories were fresh but suspicion was low, were re-examined through the grim lens of a confirmed homicide. The focus shifted to the last known hours of Alex's life. Who was he with after he left Emily? Did he truly walk alone to his car, or did he meet someone? A discarded cigarette butt found near the remains, initially overlooked, was now reanalyzed. Advanced DNA extraction allowed for the retrieval of a partial genetic profile. It wasn't a match for Alex, and crucially, it wasn't a match for anyone in the existing police database. It was a new light, a faint whisper from the past, but a lead nonetheless. The years of living with a ghost had taken their unbearable toll on the Millers. The discovery of Alex's remains, while bringing an end to the agonizing uncertainty, opened a brutal new chapter of pain. The relentless quest for justice. Sarah, though physically weaker, found a new, steely resolve. Tom, too, was re-energized by the possibility of finally finding their son's killer. They attended press conferences, pleading for anyone with information to come forward. The story resurfaced in local news, a somber echo of the past, reminding St. Louis of the bright young man who vanished after his homecoming game. The reinvigorated investigation stretched on. The partial DNA sample was a tantalizing clue, but without a match, it remained a phantom. Detectives pursued old theories, interviewed old suspects. One line of inquiry focused on a jealous former boyfriend of Emily's, but his alibi had held up in 1999 and nothing new emerged. Another considered a local drifter known to frequent the area near the high school, but he had died years ago. The ravine where Alex was found was a known hangout spot for some older teens from a different part of town, and the police turned their attention there, revisiting those who had been interviewed briefly 7 years prior. The discovery of Alex's remains in 2006 didn't immediately bring an arrest. The killer, if still alive and free, had 7 years to cover their tracks, but it reignited the flickering flame of hope for the Miller family, a hope for accountability, for a name to finally attach to the unspeakable act. Alex Miller's case, once a poignant symbol of youthful promise lost to the unknown, became a searing symbol of enduring determination. That this wasn't just the discovery of a body. It was the brutal awakening of a cold case, a renewed quest for truth in the shadows of a past tragedy, a past that still haunted the quiet streets of Kirkwood and forever scarred the broken hearts of a family. The narrative concluded not with a tidy arrest, but with the grim reality of ongoing pursuit, a stark reminder that even after 7 long years, some stories are tragically far from over. The Miller family continued to live in the agonizing wait, now for justice, their hope fragile but unyielding, a testament to a love that time and tragedy could not erase.